You know, the solid state joints are less commonly used for joining the same metal because those joints can be easily done using the other joining processes, including the fusion welding. Except in case when the metal is very sensitive to the heat. So those metals which are extremely high sensitivity, those are having very high sensitivity towards the heat application, they are preferred to be joined by the solid state joining for the same metal joining, like metal A and metal A, both the two components, and they are joined together using solid state joining. Okay, if you take any joint, so it can fail. As I said, it can fail from any location. Say say this is the one, and this is the another member. Okay, so these can be joined using number of approaches. There can be the braced joint, or you can say the shoulder joint, or there can be adhesive joint like this just at the interface. Okay, then there can be the fillet at both the ends as well. So whenever these joints are developed, they will have a certain tendency to get failed like this under the effect of the external load during the service. Now this failure can occur from the multiple locations. The failure can occur from here itself, like say this is the metal A. Okay, even let's take it is same metal and there are two parts, part 1 and part 2. These are being joined. So the part 1 also can fail or part 2 also can fail. Okay, from the base metal. So this is what we'll say, that the failure of the base metal and joint is still strong. Okay, the next possibility of the failure is like the failure is occurring next to the weld region, that's the heat affected zone or the toe of the weld. So this is the second situation where you can say the failure is related with the stressed concentration zones. It is the toe of the weld. Third situation is like the things are failing directly the weld zone itself. Now that can be where that can be the interface. So whenever there is the failure from the interface is taking place, means there is a weakness. Now the joint is not perfect and we need to work on this region. So the failure in a joint, wherever from the failure is taking place, that simply indicates the weakness location of the weakness. So interface failure, this is very common in case of the braced or shouldered joints, or also in adhesive joints, because they are not actually as strong as that of the base metals. But here if you talk of the weld joints, so in case of the weld joints where fusion is taking place of the same metal, it can occur from the base or from the heat affected zone or from the weld area itself, if it is the defective one. So that is what has been shown. So the similar kind of situation you will see in case of the solid state joints as well. So that is what I was trying to explain using this diagram. What you can see, the metal A. So here this is the metal A and the metal B, and the two have been joined. So what are the various possibilities for the failure to take place? This is an example of the adhesive failure only, or adhesive joint. So the failure can occur from the base metal one side, or it can fail from the other side base metal. Then there is a possibility of failure from the interface of the joint and one side base metal, or interface of the joint and other side of the base metal, or the joint itself can fail like this. So in case of the adhesive failure, it is called cohesive failure, where adhesive itself is getting failed. Otherwise it is adhesive failure where you can say the failure of the base metal and the adhesive material is that interface is getting failed. And when both are when it the part of the cohesive failure and the part of the adhesive failure both are mixed, then you can say mixed failure is taking place. So here I need to use my, so here adhesive as well as the interface, both failures are involved, so we'll say it as a mixed adhesive failure. And the similar kind of the trend we can see in the braced shoulder and other weak joints. Now in the situation where we have the metal connectivity, metallurgical connectivity between either the same type of the metals and they are joined by the metals, or there is a metallurgical connectivity between the two members, whether they are of the same metal or of the different metals, then what are the different ways by which the joint is developed, that is what we will see. And for that we have to see the certain mechanisms that play a big role in this process. So here if we list out the mechanisms that are responsible for development of the solid state joint, this includes the, like say, the metallic or atomic level bonding. Okay, this is one when the two surfaces are brought extremely close to each other, so there is an atomic attraction between the two members, between the metals of the two members which are very close to each other. The second is when the diffusion is taking place. So that is the second mechanism where the elements diffuse from one side to another due to the concentration gradients of the different alloying element, and they form metallurgical connectivity through the diffusion. The next one is mostly it is recrystallization, and one typical situation is the dynamic recrystallization, which is coupled with the deformation and the high temperature application. So during the deformation coupled with the high temperature, during the joining itself you will be getting the newer, the grains are being formed. So the dynamic recrystallization. So here your like say initially you had the grains like this one side and another, and the different grains with a different orientation another side, and when the two are joined you will see that there is no separation and distinction where the grains were there before the joining. So the newer grains even at the interface are developed, and you will see that there is no demarcating line at the interface, and this is attributed to do the recrystallization and the dynamic recrystallization depending upon the level of the deformation which is involved, or just if heat is involved we'll say it is a recrystallization. If it is deformation coupled with the application of heat, then we'll say that it is the dynamic recrystallization. Then the one very common is in solid state joining is the mechanical interlocking. Mechanical interlocking can be easily seen in number of joints, like joining of the simple wires by twisting is also mechanical interlocking. And here this is very common in some of the processes like ultrasonic welding and explosive welding, where micro level deformation takes place from both the sides, and this is say initially the asperities are connecting with each other at the interface, and once the deformation takes place you will see that all these asperities are highly intermingled or interlocked with each other. So this is the kind of structural orientation you will see here. It can be simple plain mechanical interlocking, or it can be wavy interlocking like this. Some kind of the wave also at the interface can be developed. So this is an example of the flat mechanical interlocking or wavy or sinusoidal mechanical interlocking. In both the cases, this kind of interlocking is at the micro level only. This also contributes a lot in development of the joint with the desired strength. Sometimes we also come across the localized melting here and there, and localized melting is. So localized melting is common in, like say, ultrasonic welding and like say the diffusion bonding, or if the inappropriate control of the heat is there in other process, then also melting can take place. So this can be there, not of the bulk material, but this melting occurs at the two locations, in the two situations. One where the low melting point constituents or the phases present at the grain boundaries, they melt, like the eutectic at very low, the eutectic present at the grain boundaries, so that will be melting in a very localized manner. And the second case is where low melting point interlayers or fillers are used in case of the diffusion bonding. So that is an example of the transient liquid phase bonding. Okay, this is done intentionally. So the one which happens because of the presence of the low melting point, and the second where the melting is intentionally realized in order to develop the required diffusion bond. So these are the two situations. So the localized melting due to the excessive heat generation of the low melting point phases can be observed in ultrasonic welding, while in case of the diffusion bonding, you can see that controlled melting of the film or interlayer is being realized in order to in order to develop the diffusion bond. So these are the five mechanisms that we will be seeing using the different schematics here, which I have prepared. So here what you see, the metallic bonding at the atomic level. Okay, so what you have basically the two different components, okay, with the different grains and the alloying elements. When the two are brought very close to each other, then you will see there is a atomic level closeness leading to the having the good attraction between the atoms at the two sides, and some kind of the weak bond is developed. And in case of the diffusion, the elements from the two sides, like this is one component, this is another. Schematically this is shown as the block diagram. Okay, so and you can see the atoms are present, solute atoms are present at the interstitial places, and when they are brought in very close contact with each other under the sufficient temperature conditions, so atoms so they are in firm and very clean contact with each other in the second case. Okay, and here these atoms try to diffuse across the grain boundary. So you will see some of the atoms have diffused this side and from one side to another. That's what you can see. The black dots have moved from one side to another side, and like that. So this is what you can say, that diffusion across the interface is taking place, and that will be leading to the formation of the new grains. So you will not be able to see very clear the demarcating line, but very diffused one. So this is the two separate components, and the two are brought in firm contact with each other, and when the diffusion takes place across the interface, there is no very clear demarcating line across the grain boundaries. Even the newer the grains you can see. So this is the case of the diffusion, and if the two are incompatible with each other, then certainly they will be forming some kind of the intermetallic compound as well, or the newer phases also can be formed. Localized melting is a third mechanism, where you will see that the two metals, or the same metal also, they may have the low melting point phases at the grain boundaries. So low melting point phases and impurities can reach to the molten state. So this is, you can say, discrete melting here and there. And the second case where the interlayer has been intentionally used. So with the application of the heat, this interlayer will be melting and then it can diffuse. The elements can diffuse from the interlayer into the base metal. So this is what is typically achieved in case of the transient liquid phase bonding, where things will be melting and then they will be diffusing out. Once the diffusion completes, then you will see the solidification starts due to the change of composition of the molten zone which has been formed during the diffusion bonding in case of the transient liquid phase bonding. And the localized melting can be here and there, like say you have used some kind of the interlayer, it is leading to the eutectic reaction and the melting here and there is taking place. So there is a possibility that melting can lead to the weakening because of the formation of the brittle and the weak phases, or it can lead to the improved bonding. It depends the kind of the constituents which are being formed as a result of the melting. So as I said, in case of the transient liquid phase bonding, this is very intentional. This is done in very controlled way in order to have the good metallurgical connectivity and intimacy between the two members which are being joined, so that the diffusion across the interface can take place. And so in that case the strength may be quite good, while in other cases where it is not intentional, but the low melting point phases are being formed intentionally, or they are all unintentionally, or they are being present due to the poor control over the composition and the metal composition, then in those cases the strength may be compromised badly. Okay. The dynamic recrystallization, this is what you can see is very common in case of the solid state joining processes where the plastic deformation is involved. So whenever there is a plastic deformation coupled with the heat generation, which is either coming from the friction or the deformation, that will be leading to the dynamic recrystallization. So say initially the grain structure of the two members is like this. When the two are joined either with the help of micro or macro level deformation, you will see there is no clear cut demarcation. Newer grains are formed across the interface in the two components. So this kind of situation will be leading to the development of the good weld joint. So mechanical interlocking is the next one, where we can see this is very commonly observed in explosive bonding, electromagnetic welding, and the ultrasonic welding. In all these cases, all these processes are used for joining of a thin sheet with the another member. So there can be tubes, there can be thin plates. So in both the cases, what we'll see in all these cases, what we see, there will be some kind of the mechanical forces used in order to have the interfacial deformation. And whenever the interfacial deformation takes place, you will see this kind of the localized deformation will be occurring at the interface. So this is a typical example of the interlocking, right? Mechanical interlocking. But when the two metals are brought in very close contact, they may not be metallurgically incompatible, so they may form also some kind of the undesirable constituents at the interface. However, the amount of those undesirable metallic phases may be very limited, but still those are formed. So solid state joining processes like the friction welding, friction stir welding, those are based on the large scale deformation. But here these what I am showing you is basically related with the you can say the micro level deformation, which is observed in case of the explosive bonding and explosive welding, electromagnetic welding, and ultrasonic welding, leading to the mechanical interlocking. Okay. So here you see since we are not achieving the fusion state for developing the metallurgical continuity between the two metallic members, whether they are of the same or the different types. So to develop the metallurgical continuity, uh, in case of the solid state joining process, the two are very prerequisite. Two things are important. One is the cleanliness, and the second is the energy barrier must be overcome. So the crossing or overtaking the energy barrier and the cleanliness, these are the two important things. So this aspect, cleanliness related aspect, I have talked number of times earlier as well. To realize the metallurgical continuity, we need the diffusion across the interface, and for to facilitate the diffusion, there must be a direct metal to metal contact at the interface, and that must be free from any kind of the thin layer of the impurities present in the actual surfaces. So all oxide layers, absorbed gases, these must be removed, and you'll see it depends a lot on the type of the oxides and nitrides being formed. Okay, their properties, particularly the hardness and brittleness. If these oxides are soft and ductile, then certainly you cannot do. The rubbing can help to remove these surfacial impurities easily if they are hard and brittle, and this is further easier in case of the dissimilar metal joining, because if it is similar one, you will see that both will be behaving in the same way. If it is dissimilar, then they will be behaving differently, and it will be easier to cause the separation and a removal of these oxides and impurities from the surface. So that is why not just the mechanical cleaning will be good enough, because these are very thin, maybe few angstrom, okay, and these are very hard and brittle, especially like chromium, aluminium. These oxides are very stable and very adherent, very coherent with the surfaces. So and these are very thin also. So just mechanical cleaning may not be good enough. You need the chemical cleaning as well for removing all these impurities present at the surface. So sometimes in the solid state joining, if the interfacial deformation is involved, then that will inherently be cleaning the surfaces and trying to clear all these impurities. On the other hand, you know, as I said, the mechanisms are involving primarily the diffusion, okay, and the recrystallization. So, and there is a third mechanism also that you see. So to develop a metallurgical continuity, both are usually present in the solid state joining. So there must be sufficient amount of the energy applied in form of heat, okay, to facilitate the diffusion and to develop the newer grains through the recrystallization. Okay, so one philosophy is this: this energy required to facilitate the diffusion as well as the recrystallization must be supplied, or energy required to facilitate the diffusion or recrystallization must be supplied to facilitate the metallurgical bond in case of the solid state joining. But the problem here is, and this is very common in most of the solid state joining process, this is common, we apply the energy in different forms, whether it is the deformation, whether it is the frictional heat, it is always there, and that is why we get the like the diffusion as well as the recrystallization. This is one aspect. But the problem is in acceptance of this hypothesis is one, wherein if you take the two metals and put them in firm metal to metal contact with each other under the sub-zero conditions. So when we are putting the two components in firm metal to metal contact under sub-zero conditions, means there is no driving force for diffusion and recrystallization to take place. Still, the joint is developed. Maybe it will take 4 months, 6 months. So, and it is very difficult to expect any kind of the recrystallization and the diffusion which will be occurring under the sub-zero conditions. So that is why these are the two theories which are not equally acceptable for all situations. And there is one more aspect that has been explained is misorientation. You know that the at the grain boundaries arrangement of atom is highly irregular. You will be knowing this. It is a structure is amorphous. Similarly, the surfaces of the two components which are to be joined, they may have the different the grain orientations, the different arrangement of the atoms, the different kind of the crystal structures. So it may not be same necessarily in the even in the similar kind of the metals. So to have the metallurgical continuity from one side to another across the interface, the energy must be overcome for facilitating the metallurgical bond through the misorientation. So energy to overcome the misorientation of the atoms to facilitate the metallurgical bonding is the third aspect which is being proposed to see that this can be the another kind of the energy requirement which must be overcome for developing the metallurgical bond. So apart from the energy requirement for diffusion and the recrystallization, energy requirement to overcome the misorientation of the atoms and then to develop the metallurgical bond across the interface is a third aspect which has been proposed, and people are still working on to understand this aspect, like what is its importance and significance in the development of the solid state joints. Okay, now coming to the another third aspect about which I wanted to talk here is about the validability. Okay, validability of metals by solid state joining processes. So how to understand this and why it is different for different metals and different in different situations. Now, ease of joining, how do we characterize this ease of joining or ease of welding? No, power can be one thing because it is affecting the cost, no? But this is not very good way, because in any case we have to apply the energy, no? So what we do basically energy consumption per unit length of the weld, that is how it is quantified, which may be different for the different processes as well. Energy requirement, penetration is about like whether joint is perfect or not, right? Joint is imperfect if the joint is partially penetrated, means it is imperfect and you will reject simply, right? So there are certain ways to understand. Let us understand what the validability is and how do we characterize in comprehensive manner. The thing is the validability, you see, it is very easy, like it is ease of joining or welding, right, of metal. of a given metal, we will say, right? Because for different metals the weldability is different. Okay, but for what? Again, there are number of constants. Ease of welding or joining of a given metal. Now we will be putting in constants like for metal, ease of welding of metal of a given metal for a given procedure. You can say it is joining procedure. Okay, let me erase for a, so ease of joining or welding of a given metal, okay, by a given welding procedure or joining procedure, okay, for a given purpose. Joints can be developed for the different application, for one purpose, one joint is fine, but for another application same joint may not be acceptable. Okay, so what we say, ease of joining of a given metal by a given welding procedure for a given purpose under a given fabrication conditions. Okay, you see the flat welding or downhand welding position, they are most acceptable. Something is very easy to do in the shop but may not be easy to do in the field. Okay, so what are the fabrication conditions? If you change any of the things, say for example, if you take a metal A, right, A metal, when it is welded by the process X for purpose Y and under fabrication conditions say Q, then the things are not workable, things are very poor. Why? Because it's not happening or it is taking too much cost. Okay, if you work with another process, say your process is Z, okay, the purpose is P and your fabrication conditions are R. Okay, so if you work with another set of the fabrication conditions, it's fine, it is acceptable. So the point here is, let's take example, if you take aluminum, okay, use the SMAW, you may find the joint is not working. Purpose, like say if you on the purpose, I'll give another example, but when you weld aluminum by your by GTAW or by GMAW, the joint is perfect, joint is very easy to make. Okay, now I'll take the things related with the purpose. Okay, you make the steel weld, okay, very easily, whether it is solid state joining or any other process, it work in very fantastic way under the normal ambient condition. Like say, okay, temperature is from say 20, 25, 30, 40, it's fine. But when the same weld joint of the steel is allowed to use or is used at -10, -20, it doesn't perform, it loses its toughness, it loses its ductility, it becomes imbrittle. So your joint is not able to perform under the impact or the tough conditions. Okay, so the purpose has changed. Similarly, in the fabrication conditions, you see whether it is aluminum or steel or any XYZ metal, any XYZ welding process being used, but in easy to weld position is your downhand, then it is somewhat more difficult, is like say you have to weld pipe, if you have to weld very thick sheet like 50 mm or just 0.5 mm, all are very difficult. So fabrication conditions may change significantly. So similarly, if there is a simple butt joint, it will be easy, but if it is a edge joint or corner joint, that will be more difficult. So depending upon the fabrication conditions, your ease may change significantly. This is just one aspect I am talking of. Let us take other aspects, because I have used the three words: one, the procedure; second, the purpose; and third, the fabrication conditions. Okay, so there can be number of aspects related with the location where the joint is to be made, the orientation of the plate, section, thickness, okay, and the configuration in which the joint is being made. It is lap joint or the butt joint or what, or where the joint is to be made. Then the purpose, you can say there can be n number of situations. It is normal ambient condition, it is the static loading, or it is fatigue loading, it is the creep, or it is the low temperature application. So as per the case, situation may change significantly. Similarly, procedure. What do you think things will be included in the procedure, starting from your edge preparation? Starting from your edge preparation to the, like say, which will be involving cleaning, cutting as well as cleaning, and then your the process, welding process or joining process being used, the kind of the fillers and the consumables being used. All these affect the performance of the consumables that are being used. And then the post joining treatment, all these are the part of the procedure. If you change anything, then your ease will change. I will give example. If something can be joined directly without any edge preparation, this is the best, because you don't need to prepare the things. You just do the joining and get a joint. But in number of cases, you may find that no, you have to prepare the edges, you have to do the cleaning properly, you have to use a process which is not easy to apply, which needs huge investment. Say, if something can be done very easily using SMAW, why you will go for the laser or electron beam? Why you will use the GTAW, which needs the inert gases? So certainly you will not be going. If a metal needs just GTAW, not other processes, so that will be affecting cost. Okay, so now I'll come to the another aspect as far as the weldability is concerned. Easy to understand is the weldability. So those are the three ways by which you need to fix those dimensions that you need to see while identifying the ease of joining of a given metal. Okay, now the weldability, in a very simple way you can understand, when you develop a joint for a given procedure, using a given procedure, what about the joint quality? So you are fixing the welding or joining procedure, and thereafter you are trying to see what kind of the quality you are getting. So the quality of the joint, now that you can see number of ways. Soundness, it can be appearance, okay, it can be performance as per the requirement. This can be mechanical performance, corrosion performance, tribological performance, it can be anything. Okay, now the second thing related with this is about the weldability is the cost. Okay, just a minute. Yeah, so here the quality for a given joining procedure or welding procedure, what kind of quality you are getting, and for this procedure how to identify this procedure and for which you are getting a particular kind of quality. So this procedure thing is being understood or considered from the efforts. So in general, if you have to put in less efforts means you don't need any edge preparation, you can use simple mechanical cleaning, you can use simple SMAW process, or you can use, you don't need any post weld heating, there is no need of the cleaning after the welding. So all those things will be making your life easier, you see. So the efforts required to develop a joint, they will be reduced, means the cost will be reduced, time will be reduced. So for lesser cost, if you are getting good quality, your weldability will go high. So what you need to see is, see the quality of the joint and see the efforts that you have put in form of the procedure. Okay. So in form of procedure, like less efforts, simple procedure, good quality, easy weldability or good weldability. Now efforts we need to see little in more detail, like as I said, the edge preparation or the preparation that you need. So if you need the simple square groove S1, or normal accuracy, like for the laser welding you need very straight edge, because the laser spot is of very small size. But here if even normal machining will also be fine, which is giving you high roughness, that is good for the normal conventional welding. So square edge or your V, you say V or double V, or some special preparation is needed. So all that will be increasing the cost. This is one. You have to know preheat. You know, preheating will be making the life difficult. First you need energy, you need to supply the energy for heating. Then once it is of the high temperature, then it will be making the joining difficult. So if the preheating is involved, then certainly it will be increasing the cost. No preheat, it's good. Now the joining process, if we are working with the SMAW, you don't need the costly shielding gases and it can be easily applied. But if you need to use a specialized processes like GTAW, GMAW, or your FSW, or your diffusion bonding, or those processes which are specialized, they will simply be increasing the cost. Okay. Then after the welding, the kind of you can say the post joining treatment that are needed. So no treatment requirement, you are getting the very good quality joint after the joining, then it's fine. This will reduce the efforts. Otherwise you may use the stress relieving, ultrasonic stress relieving, or the stress relieving treatment, heat treatment, or you need to perform like full-fledged post-weld heat treatments, like in form of like the tempering, or the simple normalizing and then tempering. So there can be number of possibilities. Now, as far as this ease of joining is concerned, so as I said, the weldability needs consideration the quality and the efforts that you have put in, and efforts we can quantify in terms of the procedure, the joining procedure being adopted in form of like edge preparation, or the preheating, or the joining process being used, or the post weld treatments which are needed. So if you need the minimum steps, it will help to reduce the cost, it will reduce the efforts that are needed, so that for a given joint performance it will improve the ease of joining. So lesser the efforts, better the quality, this combination will simply increase the ease of joining. Okay, so that's how we can see the ease of joining. Okay, now coming to the ease of joining actually depends on the number of other aspects. Like say, if you take a given process, because it is solid state joining has to be seen. So if you take one process, say diffusion bonding, okay, and you take the another process, say FSW. These the efforts that are needed for the two processes may be entirely different. The time required may be different, and the kind of preparations, the kind of performance that we get, these can be entirely different. Say very good surface preparation in form of smoothness and cleanliness is needed for diffusion bonding, and you can say very casual. This can be casual as far as the preparation is concerned. You need to just clean it up so that there is no grease, oil, paint, dust, dirt, etc. on the surface. But here it has to be very clean, very smooth, like say less than 1 micrometer, which will be needed. Then long diffusion bonding time, right? On the other hand, this bond joint can be developed maybe in 5 minutes or 10 minutes once you hold the job in the machine. So the process is fast and here it is slow. So one diffusion bond may take like say 2 to 3 hours, and here it may be like say 10 to 15 minutes. There is a lot of difference. Okay, so the same the two processes may not be directly comparable. One is very easy, another is difficult. So you have to see where you can apply the FSW, where you can apply the diffusion bonding. So based on the ability of the process also you have to choose, because every metal cannot be joined by every process, or every dissimilar metal cannot be joined by every the joining process. So we have to see what is possible with a particular set of the machines or joining processes or joining technologies. Say if I give example like solid state joining processes like the ultrasonic welding, explosive welding, magnetic pulse welding. In these processes, these are used for thin section joining, like thin sheets, thin tubes, thin plates. These thin films, these can be joined, but if the both are of very heavy section, they cannot be joined. Okay. Similarly, if the metal is not having any ductility, then you cannot do anything with the FSW. You know, there has to be some kind of the ability of the metal to get deformed for forge welding as well as for friction welding. So it depends, like what is the kind of the requirement of a given metal to develop what is the requirement of a given process to develop the joint, so that we can see whether a given metal having a certain set of the properties can be joined by a given process or not. Okay, so if you have to see the ease of joining of the different metals by solid state joining process, we have to consider certain aspects. So what are those aspects or factors that have to be considered for solid state joining? So what we can say simply, the factors affecting the reliability by solid state joining processes. Okay, I think this is clear. I hope with this background you will be able to get easily what I'll be saying now. So the solid state joining, you know that this needs the deformation, whether it is macro or micro. This also needs the diffusion. This needs the recrystallization for development of the joint across the interface. These are the few very important things that are needed. Okay, so if so all the factors which are affecting these three things, they will be affecting the ease of joining. So that is what you will be seeing gradually. So the first factor, that is what you can see, is about the chemical properties of the metals, which means in chemical properties what you have, chemical properties of the metal, so it is the composition, and the affinity of the metal to the atmospheric gases. This is the second. Then we have the physical properties of the metals. Physical properties of the metal which are to be joined by the solid state joining. So the physical properties of the metal which are of the great importance from the solid state joining point of view, they are of the thermal conductivity and thermal expansion coefficient. Right. As far as the mechanical properties are concerned, because we need the deformation also, so these mechanical properties are of the importance yield strength and the percentage elongation, that is the ductility of the metal. Okay. And from the metallurgical point of, or here we can say the work hardening as well, the way by which metal responds to the work hardening. And the fourth one here is the dimensional properties. Dimensional properties are like, what is the thickness to be joined? Like you cannot apply all joining processes for all kind of the thicknesses of the work material to be joined. So thickness is one thing, okay. Then kind of the configuration, like whether it is a plate or whether it is a pipe or any other complex geometry, or the kind of joint we have to make. So joint configuration or the kind of the shape or geometry in which the joint is to be made. So these are the dimensional properties which will certainly be affecting the ease of joining by the solid state joining processes. Okay, so in details of these things or can say the role of these factors on ease of joining or weldability of the metals by solid state joining, that is what I will be talking in the next lecture tomorrow.